Yes, no, maybe so, yeah. No, okay, all right. I hereby call this meeting to order at 8:26 p.m. Can we move to roll call attendance, please?
Senator Clemens. Here. Senator Player. Senator Abernathy.
Here.
Senator True.
Here.
Senator Romero. Here. Senator Bridges.
Here.
Senator Sayers.
Here.
Senator Whitman. Here. Senator Swartz. Senator Listman. Here. Senator Lewis. Here. Senate Leader McNesby. Here. Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator Gagliano.
Here.
Senator Foster.
Here.
Senator Campbell. Senator Mouton. Oh. Thank you. Class President Fennell.
Here.
Class President Carlo.
Here.
Class President Lynn. Here. Class President Howard.
Here.
Student Trustee Long. Here. Alumni Council Rep. Lowell. CSD Rep. Salazar. Leader. SAC Rep. Maryland. Director James Franklin. Club Coordinator Chang.
Here.
Club Coordinator Benner. Here. Director Felicity Pence.
Here.
Parliamentarian Holly. Treasurer Sweat.
Here.
President. We're good.
Okay, awesome. Do I hear a motion to approve of the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
So here's just the notes. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All right. First up, we have two guest speakers tonight. Paul Christopher, VP for Business and Finance / Chief Financial Officer, is going to come up and talk about the budget. So I will go ahead and hand over, please pay attention also. Anyone want to present?
Slideshow.
F5.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, okay, that's fine. We can do that too. Oh, because it only duplicated this week. How did you get the duplicate?
Hit Windows D.
Windows key. Did that work? You just want to start and we can,
Yeah, I really need to slide.
okay. It's not.
It says the Zoom slideshow.
Oh, I have it. It's actually- it should be there. That's just not it. Oh, it's over. A lot of things are happening tonight. So sorry to everyone. So sorry to the guest speakers. I really appreciate your patience though. I really appreciate the patience of the Senate. So thank you guys for staying with us throughout. This is kind of not ideal. Okay, did that work? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So, hello, everybody. As was mentioned, I'm Paul Kusicker. I'm the Vice President for Business and Finance. And Tom invited me to come and talk to you all, give you some sense of the budgeting process here at St. Mary's College. So that's what I'm here to do. So, next slide. Use of Nancy. briefing to give it on the slide.
Could you maybe share?
Oh, there it
Is this your next slide?
is. No, you just stick.
All right, good. Okay. So what I want to do is kind of give you a sense of the budget timeline here at St. Mary's College. We fall under the state of Maryland for their budgeting process, and that fiscal year starts 1 July and runs through 30 June. So we start looking at the next year's budget in August. So this past August, we started looking at the FY21 budget, which would be in effect as of July 1st, 2020. So we begin to prepare for the submission to the state. The state provides us with an analysis of what they think our budget grant is going to be. Any increases to tuition limits is spelled out. They ask us to identify a certain amount of money that might be cut from the budget that they provide to us and what would be specifically cut if that was the case. We send that back to the budget. We do this looking at projected revenues. We are very tuition dependent. We'll talk about that later. So entering class and retention of existing classes are absolutely critical. So we have to look at trying to project those numbers to develop our budget, specifically our revenue. October, November, so we respond back to the state with our submission. The state will send us a whole litany of questions and comments that we have to address. And normally the president, myself, a board of trustee member, and our government relations person will have to go to Annapolis to talk to the Department of Budget and Management, that's DBM, and basically justify our request to the state. So that occurs probably sometime in November, we'll have to go up there. Next slide. So in December, we continue to review our revenue projections. We closely monitor admissions activity. At that point in December, how many apps have we received? How do those apps track the previous years? Open house attendance, we look at very closely, historical records. What are the visits to campus? Are they up? We try to give us some indication of application interest in St. Mary's. We gather additional potential funding needs based on strategic priorities. We gather those as a leadership group. And then we roll into January, February, where we refine the next year's payroll. We've got vacant lines, we make determinations if those lines will be filled. As I'll show you in a few minutes, our salary budget is our largest expense. So we have to be very precise in projecting what our budget's going to look like for the following year. We continue to monitor the admissions activity. We begin to finalize the lead sheet. The lead sheet basically is the budget that we present to the board of trustees for approval. March and April, we continue these discussions. We finalize decisions with the board of trustees. The executive council is the president and the vice presidents. Again, always monitoring admissions activity. 1 May is the deposit deadline, so that gives us a really good indication of what our class for that particular year is going to look like. And then this year, 16 May is graduation. We have a board of trustees meeting, and the board actually approves the budget. It will be effective 1 July. Next slide. So let's look at revenue sources, and this is this year, FY20, the year we're actually in. So our total revenue is $68.7 million, you can see. Our largest source of revenue, 40%, is from the state grant, $27.1 million. So how many of you think that we are part of the university system of Maryland? That's a common misnomer. We actually are not. In 1992, the legislature granted us autonomy to a certain extent. We are a quasi-public private institution. So the university system of Maryland includes obviously the flagship College Park, Frostburg, Bowie, Maryland Eastern Shore, Coppin State, Bowie State, Towson, Salisbury. All of those are part of the umbrella system. We are not. We are actually separate, although we are a state-supported institution, along with Morgan State and Baltimore. Baltimore Community College, and us. So it's an interesting arrangement that we have. We are autonomous in that we have a board of trustees that sets our tuition, our fees, our room and board, not a central system. Our board operates autonomously from the system. They make all approval of our policies and regulations here at the college. But we do have to follow a lot of the state rules and processes and procedures, especially as it revolves around procurement. We'll talk about that. So that's our largest source, is the state grant. The second is tuition and fees. You can see 22 million. That's self-explanatory. Third largest is auxiliary services. This is the money, the revenue that we collect for room and board revenue, meal plans, and the bookstore operations fall under auxiliary enterprises. And then the final source of income, I'm calling it other, 1.7 million. It's a conglomeration of several things. Sales and services, which is our conference revenue. We have conferences here during the summer. We have several groups come in and use our facilities. Foreign program fees for study abroad, non-credit tuition, foundation unrestricted money that we get, career center registration fees, other things make up that 1.7. So that's it. That's our four sources of revenue that we receive. Next slide. Now I want to go over our expenses by state program. And these are the state program codes that we have to follow. Total expenditures must equal total revenue, $68.7 million. We have to present a balanced budget each year, not only to the state, but also to the board of trustees. Revenues equal expense. Obviously, our largest tier is instruction, $19.3 million, and that's basically the cost of putting on the academic programs, both personnel and non-personnel costs. Institutional support is next at $14.6 million, and that's all the non-academic side of the house. All my office, HR, business, advancement, development office, facilities, information technology, all of those support agencies, if you will, fall under institutional support. Third is auxiliary enterprise. This is the cost of personnel and maintenance of dorms, utilities, housekeeping. Bon appetit dining falls under this. Bookstore operations are all considered part of our auxiliary expense. Scholarships and grants, $7.3 million. Next, plant operations and maintenance, 4.8. These are the maintenance and utilities for all the non-auxiliary enterprises. I missed student services, I'm sorry. Student services, $7.1 million. That is career services, athletics, admissions, financial aid, registrar, all falls under that. So this is how we have to report our budget to the state by these programmatic elements. So the next slide. Another way to view our expense side is by this chart. And I'll highlight that almost 60% of our expense is personnel, salary and benefit costs. So that's a significant amount of our $68.7 million budget. Just moving clockwise, communication, $403,000, that's mostly postage, shipping, things like that. Travel, that's faculty and staff travel, but it's also a large part of that is for study abroad travel, international travel. Fuel utilities, 3.8, 3.5, fairly self-explanatory. That's the oil, propane, electric, water, sewage, all of those charges to run this institution. Vehicle operations, this is for the maintenance and repair and purchase of the fleet vehicles that you see driving around campus. Contractual services, 8.9 million. Bon appetit is the largest part of that, our dining service provider. Supplies and materials, run the offices, explanatory equipment, lab equipment, computers, software, and so forth. Scholarships, again, a very large chunk of our expense category. Other interesting is our debt service. We've borrowed over the years money to build dormitories and auxiliary type places, primarily dorms. So we have to pay on that loan each year. And that's what's reflected there, the $3 million that the college is required to pay on the $25 million outstanding bonds that we have. Okay, slide. This is looking at a 5-year operating budget, and by category, I don't know if you read this, but this line here is the instruction. You can see that the downward trend over 5 years, and the last grouping is auxiliary enterprises. You can see that is also down as well. And that's really as a result of our enrollment decline. That's really how we explain that. Some good news though, under student services, you can see over the 5 years, we've increased spending on student services, and scholarships and grants have gone up as well, fairly significantly, so that we're able to make the class that we need to make, to bring in the students. Next slide. So I'm showing you the revenue slide again, because I just want to point out that, as I mentioned, we must present a balanced budget to the state and the board of trustees for approval. FY 20, $68.7 million revenue, $68.7 million in expense. So in order to balance this year's budget, FY 20, the institution had made $2 million in expense reductions. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. But we had to make $1.4 million in personnel reductions and $670,000 in non-personnel supply and expense reductions in order to meet that balanced budget of 68.7. Anybody tell me why we had to do that? Yeah, enrollment decline. Last year's class, FY 19's class, we had 483 new students that came in. And that really, after 5 or 6 years of continual enrollment decline, that really buoyed all of us. We got really excited, so okay, we turned the corner. This year, so we budgeted for close to that amount initially, looking at the February, March, April timeframe I showed you before. Well, it became obvious as of the 1st of May, when the deposit deadline passed, that we were not going to hit that number. In fact, we rejiggered our budget to reflect 410 new students with the historical retention rates that we've experienced over the past 10 years. Those have been pretty accurate. So that required us to cut $2 million from the FY 20 budget. That was not an insignificant amount of money. Now, I will tell you this. When I say 1.4 million in personnel cuts, nobody lost their job. These are all vacant lines that were just not refilled. In fact, in my division, I had 6 positions and I just left vacant, did not fill. On the academic side, it was mostly visiting positions that were either not renewed after their contract ended, or we just didn't hire the visiting professors. So the good news is nobody lost their jobs. Okay? So I want to talk briefly about capital funding. We just completed a brand new stadium. How many of you have been over the stadium? What do you think? Will it be a game changer for the institution? We're thinking it will be. I mean, the interest in athletics and the traffic from athletics recruits is up significantly. Our teams are doing exceptionally well. So we're really excited about that. So you're probably wondering, how do we pay for that? Anybody wondering that? Partially. So, in addition to receiving this year $27.1 million from the state, I showed you before, 40% of our revenue, that provides operating capital for us to pay our bills, to keep our lights on, to pay the students, to provide student activities. We also get money from the state for capital support. So the stadium and the new academic buildings and auditorium, those will be online in the fall of 2022. How many of you will be here in the fall of 2022? It's going to be a really neat complex. Those 2 projects were about $72 million. The state provided all of that support for us. Each year, we have to submit what we call a 5-year governor's capital improvement program request, where we look for major renovations of existing buildings, we look for new capital construction, and we look for infrastructure to improve the systems that we have on campus. And that's where we got that money. The state allocated that money to us. Also, how many of you are familiar with the commemoration that we're doing the installation over by the stadium? So that's gonna be finished and installed July, August of next year. The state provided us $500,000 for that. We raised a little bit of money on the side. But to your point though, we did raise $3 million through donations toward the stadium, but virtually no capital from the college went into these projects. Okay, these are all state supported. The state's been also very generous the last 3 years in providing us infrastructure money to improve our deferred maintenance. You can see this year, FY20, we've got $3.76 billion for those projects. One is completed, one is underway, or actually two are underway. In FY21, they pre-programmed $4.4 million to us to help replace the HVAC and electrical system in Calvert Hall, to do road improvements throughout the campus. So we're very, very lucky that we have the support of the state for these major projects that we don't have the capital to fund ourselves. Just want to mention also the plant budget. So as part of the fee structure, some of that comes, we call the plant budget, about $1.3 million. And we use that to improve the life of you, students around campus. Some of the things that we're doing this year, some of these we've already done, some we're in the process of doing. Old townhouses, we're gonna have new furniture in 6 units. Anybody live in Warren condos? What do you think of the new entrance ways? Pretty nice, huh? So we renovated those over the summer, stripped the floors, restored the floors, painted, everything. Just refresh, basically. We also put new AC units in Warren Commons. The pub, we put some nice teak furniture on the patio of the pub. I don't know if you've seen that. And over the break, we're going to put new furniture in the pub as well. Starting crescent patio door replacement. We've done some improvements in the campus center with furnishings, library, the writing and study center, the new location. So we're always trying to improve both the visual and the beautification of the campus. And I would ask if you all at SGA have suggestions for modest investment that would improve your life, your lives as students, please let me know, let the leadership know. This, we can see if we can't work those in. They're important to students. Okay. Kind of conclusion, I just want to reinforce that this institution is a heavily tuition-dependent institution. You saw our revenue sources, extremely limited. We're always looking for additional revenue sources, and we think that between the new stadium athletic fields and this new academic building and auditorium, which will have a 700-seat auditorium, the largest in the county, that will be able to bring in external groups, external usage of that space to generate additional revenue. We're looking at additional summer camps, those things to try to generate revenue on campus because we are so heavily tuition dependent. And enrollment challenges I mentioned, I'll just highlight that 10 years ago, we were at 1,950 students. Okay, 1,950 students. And this fall, 1,456 full-time undergrads. So we've had some challenges in that regard. We are very, very thankful for the generous operating capital support from the state. And I want to leave on a very positive note. I think our expectations for the following year, both enrollment and in other areas, is very strong. We have the new LEAD curriculum that we're implementing, leading to experiential and applied discovery. This will enhance the curriculum. This is part of our marketing and branding campaign around enrollment. And all indications so far that there's great interest in St. Mary's College with this coming class. Campus visits are up tremendously. Open houses, we had an open house last Saturday that was twice as many as we had the last year. Twice as many students. Over 500 students, parents, and family attended. We're doing additional outreach in high schools, visiting counselors, engaging the alumni, and helping us as ambassadors for the institution. And we had some challenges last year in admissions. We had some turnover, and we've replaced 7 people in the course of the year. We have a very stable admissions office now, and they're out beating the bushes, so to speak. So the administration is extremely optimistic about the future of St. Mary's College for all of those reasons. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
So for like, the master plan, like online, like,
Yeah.
is that almost exclusively funded with capital funding from the state?
Most of it, yes, yes. All the major things that it talks about. So the next step in our process is, once we build a new academic building and auditorium, we're gonna move the music department out of Montgomery Hall, okay? We're gonna move Ed Studies out of Goodpasture. So we've already got pre-authorization from the state to renovate the space in Goodpasture to create more STEM research and teaching labs. So that's already pre-authorized. This year, we asked the state to consider funding the renovation of Montgomery later in the 20s. It's a 5-year cycle, so it would start for probably 4 or 5 years. And that will really kind of complete that initial campus master plan. We are looking at a new strategic plan next year. And once we get a strategic plan in place, then we're going to redo our campus master plan, our academic master planning, and all of the other plans that go along with following the strategic direction. Any other questions? Is this helpful at all? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. All right. Next we have Michael Dunn.
I also have a question.
Oh, so sorry. Yes.
I'm just wondering if you could put this in the, Google Drive.
The presentation I cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know if that's way to do this is. Thank you for coming. Okay, just want to reconvene everyone. Remember to keep side discussions to a 0 when we have guest speakers coming. And please give your full. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Hi there. Hope y'all are doing well. I've had kind of a weird day. A couple hours ago, I got rear-ended on Chancellor's Run, trying to get myself to Chipotle, feeling kind of jangly. I was Googling signs of concussions lately. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, it's been another kind of day, but I'm really happy to be with you all. I talked to my wife. I said, I might be concussed. I have to go to SGA. Let's make it happen. So nothing will stop us. Thank you very much for sharing a few minutes of your time. I want to give you some important updates about Title IX issues. I hope we will bring this back to your constituents and spread the word. The majority of the conversation is about the spring reports that came into the Title IX office, what kinds of reports they were, and what happened to them. And then I have some other updates for you as well. And I want to just note, kind of as we begin the conversation, that we're going to be talking just in terms of numbers, different kinds of issues that were reported, different kinds of resolutions, but each number represents people, right? They represent your friends, your classmates, your constituents, people who have reached out to my office or to others for support and assistance, and I just don't want to lose sight of that human element as we talk, right? So, this first chart shows the reports to the Title IX office in recent semesters since fall of 2014. As you can see on the far right-hand column, in the spring semester, we had 25 Title IX reports and 6 non-Title IX reports, for a total of 31 reports. And that was a big drop from previous semesters, as you can see. In recent years, we tend to get a lot more reports in the fall than we do in the spring, but even so, the spring reports were down last semester. If you think about it year by year, though, we had the same number of Title IX reports in 18-19 as a year as we did in 17-18. since we had so many more Title IX reports in fall of 2018. But that's what the rough report numbers look like. What kinds of issues were reported? The most common issue was sexual harassment. We got 9 reports of that. Sexual harassment is usually the most common kind of issue that comes to our attention. Next, non-consensual intercourse. That's anal, oral, or vaginal sex without consent. The next most common, we had 6 reports of non-Title IX issues. People come to us with interpersonal concerns, roommate concerns, issues of other forms of harassment or discrimination, whereas Title IX only covers sex or gender-based harassment or discrimination. From there, we had 4 reports of stalking, 3 reports of non-consensual contact, fondling, and 1 report each of dating violence, gender-based harassment, and general sexual misconduct. When we talk about general sexual misconduct, to describe folks who come forward and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this training due to personal reasons, or if someone comes to us and says, I need help, but I don't want to really share any reasons why. So that's that category. So those were the spring reports. This table looks at the fall data and the spring data combined to give you kind of the overall sense. And I shared this presentation with Rebecca, and please, I hope we'll share it with everybody else, so you can look at this. I don't want to read numbers off the chart, but you can get a sense of this information here, and I'm happy to talk about anything that strikes you. I want to take a closer look, though, at the reports involving sexual assault that we got in the spring. Again, of the 25 reports, 6 involved allegations of non-consensual intercourse, 3 involved allegations of non-consensual contact. What were the issues that those reports were about? When did they take place? 3 of the reports happened in the spring. 5 happened before the spring semester. That could be in previous semesters, over the summer, even during high school. And 1, we don't know the time. Where did these incidents happen? 7 were on campus, 1 was off campus, 1 we don't know. And who was the accused person? In 7 reports, the accused person was another student. In 2, it was a non-affiliate. That's someone who doesn't go here, who doesn't work here. And I would note that those 9 reports of sexual assaults came from 7 reporting parties. So some people reported more than 1 incident of sexual assaults when they shared that information with us. So let me talk to you about what happened to these reports. How were they resolved? The most common kind of resolution, it proceeded as far as possible, given limited information. We had 10 of those reports in the spring. Those are cases where someone may not respond to outreach from our office, right? When we get a report from public safety or an RA, we'll email the person with information about resources and options, how to get in touch with the wellness center, all that kind of thing. If we don't hear from them for a week, we will send a short little follow-up, hey, just checking in, let us know if we can help. If we don't get a response a week after that, we will close out the file, because we know that they have the information they need to make whatever choice is best for them. If they want to talk to us, they can do it. So that top category includes those cases, as well as cases where folks may not want to share information, but they want a referral to the wellness center, they need some academic support, they need to move housing, they want to talk to law enforcement, whatever the case may be. We had 3 reports go through formal investigations. That's how we hold people accountable for possible policy violations. And I'll say more about those formal investigations in a moment. 3 cases where someone came and asked the college not to take action. They said, you as an institution know you have a person involved, you have a lot of information about this case, but I do not want the college to investigate. For any number of reasons, right? And we want to do our best to honor that request so that people will feel comfortable coming forward because their wishes will be respected, unless we have a real fear about a possible pattern of behavior or an ongoing risk to community members. And those are kind of the main categories there. Again, this next slide looks at the resolutions over the entire year. The most common kind over the year as a whole was, again, it went as far as it could with limited information. 47 out of 109 reports went that way. We had 25 informal resolutions when we resolve an issue without going through a disciplinary process. That is appropriate for kind of low-level cases, perhaps of sexual harassment or even stalking. If we can implement a no-contact order, talk to the other person, maybe work in some academic accommodations, whatever might be appropriate. If that works for both parties, then we're good to go, right? And you can see sort of how this continues. There were 7 reports last year where we honored folks' requests for confidentiality, and there were 6 formal investigations. So let's talk about those formal resolutions. When we think about last year as a whole, we actually consider there to be 8 formal investigations, because we had 2 over the summer that kind of were attached to the year as well. The accused people, the responding parties in those investigations, 6 were students and 2 were employees. What were the findings of those investigations? 7 of the 8 cases resulted in a responsible finding. That is, the person was found responsible for violating policy. In 1 case, it was closed without prejudice, meaning it was closed without reaching an outcome. So what kind of sanctions do we put in place on those cases? For student cases, the sanctions range from disciplinary probation and educational sanctions, all the way on the severe side to suspension and a permanent no trespass rule. And on the employee side, sanctions included termination. So that was 1 year, that was last year. This chart looks at 3 years as a whole, since 2016, 2017. You can see over the years, in year 1, we had 11 formal investigations, then 7, then 8. In all 3 of the years, most cases resulted in a finding of responsibility. It was 9 out of 11, then 5 out of 7, then 7 out of 8. In terms of student sanctions, the most severe student sanctions that we employed each year have been suspensions and permanent no trespass orders on the student side, and on the employee side, termination. Folks have been terminated every year. And so, I hear a lot about Title IX. People have concerns about this. It's worth your concern. It's a really important issue. It's a really serious issue. And we have to walk a very fine line to make sure that our processes are fair and equitable and consistent and sensitive to everybody involved. Folks express concern to me sometimes when I hear about this, about, why aren't people removed from campus? Why are we not taking issues that seriously, right? Which is a perception I disagree with, but I respect where it's coming from. The way that people are removed from campus is by conducting formal investigations. As you saw, we had like 109 reports last year. Of those 109, we had 8 that resulted in formal investigations. How do you start a formal investigation process? You come to our office and you say that that's what you want to do, right? It's that easy. And there are those rare cases where someone says they don't want to conduct a formal investigation, but we feel we have to anyway for the overall safety of the community. And so every year, students are being removed through suspension and also through these permanent no trespass orders. Those are implemented when a student graduates, and so we can no longer kind of suspend or expel them, but we can prevent them from coming back. And we're actually working with the Faculty Senate Academic Policy Committee right now to start the process of adding a provision where, with student conduct issues and with Title IX issues, we can withhold someone's degree until an investigation is finished or until a sanction is fulfilled. That way someone can't graduate in the middle of a process. So that's something that we're working on and we'll be in touch, as that continues. So those are some thoughts on the formal resolution. The last thing I want to share with you, where do these reports come from? Who is reporting them? The most common source of reports in the spring and in the year as a whole were the reporting parties themselves. That's people who experience these issues or report to us that they have, seeking support and help from our office, which is good because we want people to think that we're credible, to trust us to do something, so I'm glad people are doing that. You can also see reports are coming from faculty, public safety, RAs, all over the place. And if we look at the year as a whole, you can see that we get a lot of reports as well from public safety, staff, everybody, which is good because we're trying to train everyone to make sure that the information gets centralized to our office to make sure that we can respond fairly and equitably to everybody. So we're glad that's working. So that is the report stuff. Let me share some brief updates and we'll call it a day. That sounds good to you? Okay. All right, a couple of updates for you. Helen Ann Lawless is here, and Helen Ann Lawless is here in the back of the room. She is our new Title IX investigator and prevention specialist. She is coming to us after earning master's degrees in public health and social work from Pitt. She's been fantastic. She's done amazing work so far, and really thankful to have her on the team. So welcome, Helen Ann. Over the summer, we did a lot of work to refresh all of our publications. We updated the website. We have a new prevention logo that's unifying efforts by SMART and by our office and by our student fellows. We've also worked with the Department of Health of the state of Maryland to develop a logic model to organize all of our prevention efforts. This is a public health approach based on techniques from the CDC to prevent sexual violence. And so now we've looked at everything we do, all the training requirements, all the programming, all the evaluation, and we've aligned them with different outcomes to defined by the CDC to make sure that what we're doing is evidence-based and informed to actually reduce the perpetration of sexual violence. And Helen and I would really enjoy nerding out about this chart with you at any given time, so we're happy to do that, but I will spare you it now. Also this year, as part of our 5-year grant funding, we launched our Call to Men programming in September. We had over 160 students come, very strong representation by the men's sports teams. We really appreciate their help and support, really strong support from yours as well. We kind of did the numbers and some back of the envelope calculations, and I think about 20% of the male students on campus attended this event, which is awesome. And our trainer is coming back in the spring. He's going to be doing targeted meetings with different male communities on campus. Why are we talking to male communities on campus? Research shows that most sexual violence is perpetrated by men. But research also shows that the vast majority of men do not perpetrate sexual violence. So how can we leverage that 94% of men not engaging in sexual violence to make sure that we have cultures among our sports teams, in our residence halls, in our clubs, for sexual violence to not be tolerated, right? It's awesome, we're super excited about this. Another part of the grant, hey, juniors, as you are thinking about SMPs for next year, we have launched the Sexual Violence Prevention SMP Fund. We have money to support SMP St. Mary's projects related to sexual violence prevention. We'll have an application process in the spring. Again, it's going to be super exciting. And the last piece I want to share with you is kind of a grab bag of stuff. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. On the stairway up to the break room, you can see a big purple chain made of links of what folks have written down in terms of what healthy relationships mean to them. We're also rolling out posters with student leaders featuring your president, talking about what healthy relationships mean to them. It's super exciting. We are also working on Halloween safety promotion. This is a tough time of year, right? The red zone is what is called, that's a bad sentence. The red zone is the name of this first 6 to 8 week period in the fall semester. That's when most campus sexual violence occurs. And the week surrounding Halloween is a very high risk period as a major party time within that red zone. And so we're doing a lot to try to promote safe practices of Halloween. For example, in the coming days, you will see this poster. It says, "My costume is not consent." Consent is about communication, not clothes. It's alliterative, and it's true, right? Also, Smarties and PHEs are tabling, and they're giving away these little cards. Be a superhero, be an active bystander, with some tips on bystander intervention, as well as resource numbers for public safety and SMART. I want folks to be really thoughtful about how we approach Halloweens as a community, right? I think there's a lot that we can do to ensure that our values as a community are being upheld and uplifted, and that we are bringing out the best in each other. For the folks who choose to participate in Halloweens, for the folks who choose to drink, right? I think there's a lot we can do to be there for one another, not just during Halloweens, but after. Are folks walking on the path back to residence halls? Are they looking out for one another? When folks come back to residence halls, are people just keeping an eye out to make sure that folks are going where they need to be? And that people who may be in a vulnerable state are not being taken advantage of? What can we do as a community? I'm an old man who may have a mild concussion. I'm going to be going to bed early for quite a while, right? Y'all are the ones who are going to be there. So what can we do as a community? That's it. I'll leave it there. And I'm happy to field any questions. Thank you.
I have a question about how timeline work affects a student's ability to get into a leadership position on campus, and that's referring to the party who's being accused.
Good question. So how can a Title IX issue affect someone's ability to be a leader on campus? The kind of most black and white clear-cut answer is if someone is found responsible for a Title IX violation and they receive sanctions, the sanctions they receive are the same kinds of sanctions for anything else. So that if there are disciplinary standards for any kind of leadership position, that person would be subject to them. What gets more complicated and a little murkier is, well, what if someone is accused of this, but they haven't been found responsible? In that case, it wouldn't really be fair to them to prevent them from obtaining any kind of campus opportunity, right? Because they can turn around and say, look, I didn't do anything, I wasn't found responsible, how can you do this? There are also kind of other situations when, what if there's a concern, what if there's been an informal resolution where we kind of addressed something, we know there was an issue, that can be really complicated too. I have definitely had a lot of conversations with clubs and with advisors about some of those dynamics within the group to think through, all right, we're a public institution, everyone's entitled to be part of everything. Yet at the same time, how do we make sure that the culture of a group is being respected, that folks feel comfortable being there, that other folks don't feel pushed out by the presence of somebody else? And it becomes a really hard process, right? I think especially, let's say that a report comes in of sexual assault, the reporting party wants to remain confidential and doesn't want the college to take action. What can we do there to honor their wishes, but also to address these concerns? It becomes really difficult, and it becomes something really dependent on the facts and what we know, and kind of how we can address that. So that's kind of how we would approach it. It's a murky answer.
And I'll share this presentation after the meeting, so if you have any questions or you would like to look over it and email him directly, you will have that opportunity.
I would. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I'd also be happy to come to any other clubs or groups or your constituents or whoever to go through this again. We can certainly do that. We have presentations this afternoon and on Friday. Where we had some really good conversation, but again, I'm happy to have this. I know a lot of conversation about Title IX happens behind closed doors, and things happen, and you hear about things second or third or fourth hand, and I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share things directly, tell you what I can from a horse's mouth, so that you have accurate information that you can share as well. All right, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Moving to new business. Let's see if I can figure it out. All right, just kidding. Here we go. So first up, we have two bills. Both of them are on theme to be left out application on holidays. So I'm gonna cover them really quick. Are they in the legislation folder? The legislation. Oh, just kidding, they're right here. I'm done. Never mind. This first bill is for $450 for a light rental. Actually, okay, let me back up and just explain everything first. Halloweens. I have literally, can everyone look up really quick? No offense to anyone. I just want to get this across as clearly as I can. I have lost sleep over Halloweens, worrying about you guys so much. And so I have been talking with PSAC, at our meeting on Thursday, this past Thursday, we met with Tessa, and we were just trying to figure out how to keep all of you safe, because that is something that's really important to me. It's just making sure that you all have what you need and have resources and have awareness and all of that good stuff. I really want you guys to be safe, and it's something that scares me a lot. Especially now that I'm here, I am kind of taking charge on Halloweens and kind of those kinds of initiatives for Halloweens, with safety initiatives and stuff. And I just, above all, I want everyone to be safe. I cannot ask for anything more than that. I just want you guys to be safe. We have been trying to coordinate with Safe Ride to see if they can run from the dorms to the greens and just get people home safely that way. But we couldn't, there wasn't enough. They need 2 drivers to operate, and they could only find one who would be willing to work on Halloweens. So at this moment, the only things we have are the PS, the light for PS, and the deputies for PS. And that is kind of all we've got from them. There aren't very many, and that's not to say that there are not resources. RAs will be around, and I believe, there will be people around to support you if you need it. But there's not gonna be like, we haven't had night hops in a year. Like, we didn't have that for my grades last year, like, we just have not been able to find students' interest in staffing Halloween Greens. Which is understandable, because I think everyone wants to go have a good time. But we just have not been able to find students who are, large groups of students who are, you know, more than one or two students who would be willing to, you know, work Halloween Greens. And that's a Tyler fair, I'm not like shading anyone, like that's a Tyler fair, I get it, like, want to party, totally fair. I do just want to say, like, Halloween Greens, and like, this isn't really has to do with the bill that much, I'm just saying, like, please be safe, while we're on the topic of Halloween Greens, like, please be safe. If you have, please start like making arrangements with your friends now. If you have a friend who's like, I'm not really trying to go out, but I'll walk you home, like, have a buddy with you on the greens, like, don't accept drinks that you don't know where they came from. Don't walk in houses when you don't know everyone who lives there, like, be really, like, just be as cautious as you can. Sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. I'm so sorry. But this is just something that worries me a lot. And I just wanna make sure everyone's safe. On that note, really quick, we have digital guest passes this year. If you have non-SFCN people coming to St. Mary's for Halloween, you can email me and I will email you, digital guest passes. I'll need your name and their full name so that they have, like, when you show PS at the checkpoint, hey, like, this is my friend, or if you get separated for any reason, there's their name and your name attached on a flyer, on there, and it'll be accessible through your phone, which I thought would be better than having to carry around and keep track of that, like, those little tiny tickets that we used to do. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to get that out because we're on the topic of Halloween, so I just wanted to say that now. And please be safe. Be safe and be vigilant and be cautious and, you know, be an active bystander. Be someone, if you need anything, like, just please reach out to anyone. Okay, I'm so sorry for that small digression. So here's the bill. So this is the first bill. It is for $450. It is for a light rental at the checkpoint. So PS will set up right outside the greens and we'll be checking your IDs, making sure that you are a St. Mary's student, because we have had many problems in the past. The year before my freshman year, we just had like so many locals who were starting fights, throwing broken bottles, breaking people's homes, like assaulting people, like it's bad. And because, you know, this is a very big party and it's very widely known in the county that this is the party that we have. So one of the things that public safety has been doing is shutting down campus to non-St. Mary's students and making sure that like they have, making sure that you have your IDs, checking your IDs to make sure that like everyone who's on the greens is a student here. And so this bill would basically just fund the overhead light that they need so that they can check your IDs. And yeah, so I will go ahead and motion to roll call vote. Do I hear a motion to roll call vote? Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you have questions? Yes, President Pearl and then Senator Ashton.
So can you just explain the checking IDs process, like where is that gonna be at in relation to Halloween Greens? Because I know like the years past, they put up the barriers on College Drive, up to the campus. I presume they're still doing that, but like you're saying this year, there's gonna be a checkpoint that every student on the greens is gonna have to go through?
I'm not entirely familiar with like, what the process is on their end. But I mean, we've had checkpoints before. Yeah, I believe they are setting up around DPC or something like that. And they will be checking IDs and that, I can't say I'm entirely sure. I can reach out to Tressa and see like what the specific detail is of like where they are setting up. But I'm not entirely sure. I think it would be from what I understand, it would be near the greens. Does that kind of help?
Yeah.
I'll email Tressa right after this
Yeah.
and I'll.
That second said the lights are for the checkpoint. I think in previous years, we had the lights towards the back of the greens, towards like trash in Harrington.
Yes.
Is that covered under this bill, or is this just,
This
so we're
is
not
just-
lights?
No, because, so, I thought the lights would apply to back of the greens as well. But in the past, we have had students tear down lights and like complain about them and just like kind of like not, they didn't, it kind of ended poorly. So there are not lights behind the greens, which is what it is. I don't, I don't really know what why it got changed, but it did get changed to just the light at the checkpoint. I don't know, sorry, Rajat, maybe I didn't say.
Yeah, I totally like agree with you. About the safe ride thing, is there a possibility maybe providing like cash incentives for people to drive? I'm not gonna drive off this, not incentive, but actually get someone to drive, because everyone, most people in the policy at the same time. If we can like provide cash incentives for people driving to pay them, that's a possibility. I'm trying to reach out to our people to see if anyone's down to like be the extra person.
Well, that's the thing, like, safe ride employees are already paid.
I mean, you don't see, you say you need other, what is that? You don't see the state vehicles certified. Yeah, I was just.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate that. And I mean, just because we don't have safe ride and we don't have Nighthawks does not mean that you cannot like go out and like help people on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's still, like, you can still be like, hey, my group of friends, if you need anything, I can be like the designated like mom or like dad or like whatever. Like, I can be the parent for the night and I can walk you home and like I can make sure that like you have what you need to get through the night safely. But yeah, unfortunately, yes, sorry. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, cool.
Senator Norton.
I'm not, unless, I don't know longer, but I'm an RA team actually. And I just really let you know that the help you in the townhouses and WC are all staffing. I don't know, we have double the amount of staff working on the rates than normal. In addition to that, like, OT RHCs have to be completion, as well. So there's gonna be like a big RA, at all the rates for this part, and so they're also like in a middle resource integration tools and that they will, but we do multiple rounds throughout the night. In addition to like working with public safety, and then also just like in terms of the life, I also wanted to say that like res life is making sure that, like there are lights on campus in 3 places now. Like they're communicating with maintenance just to make sure that like this campus is well lit, during the mornings, that people are as safe as possible. So I know like we went around on calls last night to make sure that we check out like the light situation and maintenance actually repair our lights, this afternoon in order for the duration. So I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you. President Lena.
I think as another consolation, because the RA presence is gonna be really important for the safety. My government want to explain his Halloween thing, gosh, if you're trying to save us time, but like, he contacted a lot of teams and student groups on campus, and like, for instance, the career team on the engineer last week, and then he talked to us specifically about holograms and what it looks like to help other people out, to like, be watching out for both your teammates or like members of your group and those that aren't affiliated with you. So I just think that's like one little consolation to all the people, is like, we had a huge focus on specific teams for like being that additional resource, which I think is not as great as having Nighthawks there, but there's so many groups on campus as of today that have been informed about like being focused with this.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, comments? Please note I would love, thank you for saying that, because I think, like, the combined reports, like, they make me feel better, because I just want, I just want to make sure you guys have resources. So that's really important to me. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm really glad to hear that, people are stepping up, people are getting engaged with holiday safety. Any more questions, comments, concerns? President Villa.
So one more question about the guest passes.
Sure.
You said to email you.
Yeah.
The names of people for our guest list.
Yes.
Okay, and then when's like the latest day you can get those?
Friday, please.
Okay.
It would just.
And then, okay, so we'll be like, how, can you explain just more how the digital guest pass works? Like,
So
what
essentially,
kind of file it is?
it's a PDF. I made it on PowerPoint. It's nothing fancy. I am basically just, I made it's a little PDF. It says Halloween's guest pass. It just says really quick, hey, here are, like, you are responsible for your guest. As a host, you're responsible for your guest. Your guest is responsible to, is expected to comply with college policy and safety guidelines. And then I'm gonna put your name, the host's name, and then the guest's name. So that they have, so that you are linked to that guest, so that, you know, like someone can, PS can say, oh, yes, here they are. So their host is Joseph Carrillo. He is a student here. He got it from SGA. It's legit. This person can be on campus. Does that help clarify things? Sure.
Sorry, one other question. That was clarified. Do you know about the historic? Are we shutting down historic? And I know we wanted to last year, but they had an event, and I was like, fun parking for people who they were going from the campus.
Yeah, I'm unsure. I don't know if PS has jurisdiction in historic.
I was under the impression that they did, for events like this on campus, because it's a safety issue, and they have like a whole, like, where's the historic?
Yeah.
Church, working,
Point of clarification, on the safety of jurisdiction over the entire historic district and community church, that area, like, contracts out, their policing, I guess, to public safety in order, we learned about it this week, conflict and stuff. But yeah, you have jurisdiction in that area.
Thank you. I don't know. But I will email Tressa and find out. Yeah, no problem. Senator O'Mara.
As far as parking for visitors, should we do the normal visitor pass parking, or is it like all greens?
I would do like a normal visitor pass. I think I just saw that is still applies. Okay. Can we move to roll? Do I hear a motion to move to roll call vote?
motion,
Senator Clements. Senator Abernathy. Senator Chu.
Aye.
Senator O'Mara. Senator Bridges.
Aye.
Senator Sayers.
Aye.
Senator Davis. Senator Liston. Senator Lewis. Senator McMaster. Senator Johnson. Senator Gagliano.
Aye.
Senator Foster.
Aye.
Senator Campbell. Senator Gonzalez. Past President no. Past President Phil.
Aye.
Past President Dale. Past President Nolan.
Aye.
Okay, it is in the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it, this bill passes. Okay, moving to Bill 1904. So thank you so much to Colin, who just pointed out to me I accidentally left this last whereas blank, which isn't actually like important. I just need to, I just was silly and I did not fill it out. But it doesn't, this is the complete bill, so I'm just gonna go ahead and motion to amend it, and I'll just strike the whereas. But after I open up this bill, this bill is for $640, to fund 3 deputies to assist public safety, with Hollow Greens. In the past, students have definitely not been super keen on having, officers, deputies at Hollow Greens. But in my meetings with Tressa and Dean Brown, both of them stressed to me multiple times and wanted to reassure me that like the purpose of deputies is not to interact with students. It is only to interact with the non-St. Mary students who they end up filtering in. Like PS technically does not have any authority over locals, over townies. So that's when the sheriffs get helpful, is when making sure that like they can handle townies and locals and all of that, because they do come and they do bad things. And typically the sheriffs are the people who respond to that. And so with that explained, can I motion to amend this bill? Do I hear a motion to amend the bill? Second. Thank you. Oh jeez, oh jeez, oh jeez, oh jeez, oh jeez. Please. I'm just gonna go ahead and script this. Okay, and then really quick, do I hear a roll call vote on the amendment?
Motion.
Second. Thank you.
Senator Clement. Senator Abernathy. Senator Chu. Senator Amaro. Aye. Senator Bridges. Nay. Senator Sayers.
Just for further sorry, I'm so sorry, just for further clarification, this is only for the amendment. I accidentally just, like, sorry, I just wanted to make that straight, sorry, I don't know if I was, clear enough, but this is just for the amendment, because I accidentally left that, like, okay, sorry.
Senator Bridges, you changed. Senator Bridges.
Senator Bridges? No, okay.
Senator Northman. Aye. Senator Listman. Aye. Senator Lewis. Aye. Senator Newman. Aye. Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator Abernathy.
Aye.
Senator Foster.
Aye.
Senator Gamble. Aye. Senator Newton. Aye. Past President Feller.
Aye.
Past President Bailey. Aye. Past President Fowler.
Aye.
It is the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it, these amendments. Please keep all side conversations at a minimum. Yeah, that too. For sure. Okay, so, sorry, to refocus now. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Senator Thompson.
So in the past, there's been debate over this just because firstly, in the past, they haven't actually done anything. Like, they've done them, they do anything, so have some conversations, so we'll run that on that. And also, if they're very valid reason to be, just a couple of officers being there. So I think that should be moving forward.
I discussed that a little bit. I don't know if anyone remembers what I discussed. We kind of talked about that last week, at last week's meeting, at the very end during my comments.
We'll just reiterate.
Yeah, just, no, definitely. Just want to make sure that we all, everyone was aware of like some of these points, correct? Okay, cool, I just want to make sure. Coordinator Chang and then Senate Leader Bessie.
So just to respond to that point about like them not doing anything, so they're asked to not specifically act upon anything unless there is something significantly violent occurring, because otherwise, if PS catches you doing something, you can just get a school, you just get something under the school, whereas they would put something that is more legal, more legally binding. And so PS wants to work with them, so they'll just let them know as opposed to actually trying to like do something to break up. Like if you're fine, like that's around yeah.
Yeah, so I think they're referring to like the time when there was a bunch of counties like 2 years back, when there like officers there that were found under the counties there and they moved them to campus and they didn't do anything. So like that's like my personal time, I'm well aware. I appreciate you.
Senate Leader Bessie.
I was just gonna point out that I think it's biased. I think like, obviously, like what they actually do isn't more effective, but I do think that just purely having people there who are in an actual like state police uniform, I think makes it a little bit more intimidating for non-students and like for counties when they're coming to things like this. Because I think if they're seeing someone like who just has like a public safety office badge,
we go Senator Bridges, club coordinator Benner, club coordinator Chang, President Lamb, President Carrillo. Okay, let's go. Yeah, we'll just
I think that it should just be noted that sometimes when you see people in uniforms for a lot of people of color on campus, it's very intimidating. I know it might be intimidating for townies, but I've talked to a lot of other people and me myself who don't personally feel comfortable, and I know that a lot of POCs will not go to Holly Greens if there are policemen in the case because of that intimidation fear. So I think that needs to kind of be taken into account. I don't know if there's any way that we could like maybe have the police like stationed in cars like around campus, not necessarily like standing in DEC or kind of standing in our face, just because it is a big concern for a lot of us.
And just to respond to that, we did last Marty Greens, when we were talking about funding for, deputies. One of the things we tried to do was like put a caveat of sorts and say like, hey, like, if the sheriff's officers like aren't really doing anything, or if there's not like anything that says that, if there's no indication that they are like making Marty Green safer, then we don't want to pay, like we were gonna fund it and then, but like if they didn't make the campus safer, the idea was to say, no, we won't pay that amount. And we did get some pushback from Tressa, who made it pretty clear that we can't really say what to do with it. Like I think the idea is that is her call and like PS's call. And so, yeah, while I definitely like would love for that to be a possibility and be able to say like, can we put sheriffs like maybe not near the greens? I don't think that is something that PS will be particularly enthusiastic about. I'm so sorry. How did this go? It was Jean, Victoria.
So I just like want to point out last Halloween, my friend and her boyfriend got jumped by a bunch of locals and we got her phone stolen, just like a whole bunch of things happened. And I feel like having police there, like, not so much like scares them, but like makes it known that, hey, don't do anything dumb because we're here and you're not supposed to be here. So that's just like something that I would point out, like it feels safer for students to know that they're there rather than getting done for not having it.
Coordinator Chang.
My only comment is, aside from the fact of whether or not we should, pass this, is the other idea, and I know this has been a point of contention in the past, but why specifically are we, as the SGA, paying for this, as opposed to the school paying for our safety? And I know that this has been a point of contention in the past, but I still think that we, as a group, have a lot of power, we have a lot of money, and we have more power than we think we do. And I think, and we also are not going to suffer as many repercussions as somebody on staff might. And so this is just a general statement that I think in the future, we should think about coming together and writing something to either code safety, to the dean's office, or to the president about why a student organization on campus, let alone, I understand that we are the biggest student organization on campus, but why we are spending our money when the schools seem to be capable of doing so.
Just to respond to that super quickly, I think the biggest reason why this ends up falling on SGA is because the administration cannot sanction the event, because it is, it's a big party. And so by funding the event, I think the administration is under the, I think the worry is that by funding the event and by funding safety, they think that they would be, kind of like giving the green light, even though this is a really huge safety concern. Like I think, if administration had their way, they would probably just cancel the whole event. But I would definitely really like to have that, bring up that conversation again, this year with Dean Brown and with, the administration, because I feel like I just feel like we are in a better position with them this year than we were last year. And it might be more of a productive conversation than it would have been last year. And I think that, the kind of like the tension between student body and administration has, gotten the tiniest bit better. Like we've had Dean Brown here, on multiple occasions, and that, I think that is a signifier of us like opening the doors for future, interactions with the administration. So I would love to, bring that back up again, for Marty Hayes. Okay, so let's go President Lamb, President Grillo, Senator O'Mara, Student Trustee Long, and then we'll stop there and get to sound good?
I know the order was important, but, my response is pretty directly to Senator Bridges, because my point was exactly the same. There are some things that I'll never experience when I look at a police officer that other students will. And I think that should this bill pass, because I understand like exactly what Coordinator Bennett was saying, things happen, it's important for sheriffs to be here. And if we can't dictate what their role is or where they'll be on campus, as Senator Bridges had suggested, I think it'll fall on us as senators, should this bill pass, and make it explicitly clear to students, like, what their job is when they come here, and what their job isn't. It's not to bust us, it's not to bring anyone down or make anyone feel scared, it's to protect us. And I think that I just really want to emphasize the importance of that, because since we can't dictate what they're gonna do, we can try to bring some comfort to students. And I mean, like Senator Bridges said, some people might not come, that's a really unfortunate reality if this passes. I support it because of the safety issue, and I think for us to do all we can do to bring comfort to those who might be a little bit more uncomfortable is going to be critical, because like we have that ability as the senators to send out that decision for us.
I just want to say that I feel that if we don't pass this bill and we don't fund sheriffs, that I just feel like the administration and public safety will do everything in their power to cancel out. I mean, they're well in their view, like, just shut everything down right up in the house. Their parties and stuff. I could see a severe crack on the administration if we don't pass this bill. That's just my thoughts. I feel the on that level.
I can't really speak to that, because I have not had that conversation with them, so I do not know, what would happen if this did. I have absolutely no idea what would happen if this, did not pass, but, yeah, I just want, I don't really, we haven't had that conversation, but, that is, you know, something that we would have that conversation if this did pass tonight. Senator Mara, Student Trustee Long.
Yeah, I have a couple things. So I went to high school locally, in the area. I have a lot of friends. I mean, like, this was county until August. I had a lot of friends that would come on campus, or then, people who would, go to CSM and then graduate and then still come back here. The county's here, but it, like, in most, like, my console are absolutely feral. And they're willing to come from out of way. I think that if by inviting the deputies on, we are escalating the situation where we're not people that are going to cause intimidation to a lot of students. And by bringing them on, we're going to have students that are more tense, lead to more issues, and have more fights overall, I think. I just, the police presence, I don't think is necessary. And then just to respond to the point about the administration possibly cracking down on this, I honestly think that PS is on thin ice right now with the student body. And I would be very surprised if that happened. I think it would also put a big crack in the foundation that they have with the student body to cancel something that is like so to the core of like St. Mary's culture. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything. Parents are feral, and we should not escalate the situation.
Okay, so a few things I just want to reiterate. Well, I want to say that I find it very concerning that we're funding something that we have no say in how it works. If you are, if you were having a party outside the campus and we were to hire, police officers to support our men who have say in how they police and like where they're placed and those things, and for us to be funding it without having any say in it, I feel like that is definitely concerning and problematic. I also want to say that in this coming year, I've noticed a lot of change in the culture of our campus and how we are diversified and the types of diversification and types of cultural backgrounds of these new students coming. And I feel like it's going to be very intense, especially in our current political climate, and with a lot of the incidents that have been happening thus far in our country with having these deputies and how they would make our students feel. So it's very concerning to think that we would have these deputies and they're supposed to make us feel safe, but with the justice in our campus and our culture, that isn't necessarily the case of a nice chunk of our student body. So I don't know what we can do for Halloween, but I think this is something that definitely needs to be considered for Halloween, based on like just how students feel, the fact that we're literally funding something that we have no say over. That doesn't make sense to me, and why that is a thing, I don't understand. Because if we were hiring private security elsewhere, we would have to understand it. And we would have that.
Yeah, that is definitely a larger conversation that needs to happen with business. I'm so sorry. So we've kind of said we would stop taking questions. Is there anything that you feel like has not already been communicated and really just like really need to communicate? Can we make it super brief?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is literally our last minute, to fix this. I actually was planning on voting yes on this, but after hearing some concerns, I'm on the edge of no. And I think that if, I will be here for Halloween, so I really don't care what happens for me, but I know my constituents are coming, and I want them to feel safe, I want them to feel welcomed, and I want my friends here on campus to know that shit's not gonna fall apart. So I wanna make sure that I'm voting the right way, helping you guys as well as colleagues essentially. So are we going to amend this? Because this is literally it. I want police to be here because I don't want my friends getting beaten. And again, I've never been to the school, I just transferred here. I have no idea of the stories about the crazy parties that have gone here, and how people have been jumped, have been robbed, have their houses broken into. I had no idea that was a thing. So I want to see that come. So are we going to amend this? Are we going to stay here to amend this, or are we just gonna let this bill die and not have police here and
What do
throw it
you
up in the air and find out what happens?
What is your idea?
My idea is to literally stay here until this bill is amended and we tell police how they're going to operate. If we're gonna be paying for them to come to this event, we need to have all of the issues that have been brought up to be addressed in that bill if we're gonna be paying for it. If not, then we're not gonna have police here.
I entirely understand that point, and I think that that's something that we brought up with Tessa at our last staff meeting. That was something that we talked with her about. However, I do not. I don't think the only thing is that I don't think the thing is we can't like have like if you mean like amend it like if we amend this and then pass it and try to get to Tressa, it's a no-go. Like we cannot in any way, and Tressa has made that very clear to us last year that we cannot dictate what the sheriffs do. And it is unfortunate, and it is something that I think would make students feel a lot better, but she has made it clear, she made it very, very clear last year that is not something we are allowed to do. If you were on Senate last year, you remember the really awkward and uncomfortable email that we got in response. And I mean, I totally appreciate and understand where you're coming from. I just we unfortunately they get to decide what happens with the sheriffs.
I
And
just want to have a problem.
no, and that's entirely fair. It's just that we've tried, and she's made it clear that we don't have the ability. However, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to her and let her know what your concerns and safety concerns are, because I think that she would be open to making sure that she hears those concerns.
If we want.
If we, yes, correct, if we want it, yes. This is all on the contingency that we noted, allowing us to continue. Okay, I think that's the side of this.
I just wanted to kind of go off what you were saying, when you called it out, I just think, we really need to keep in mind that how many steps we get. And all of the points that have been raised about like how we need to really be more aware of what's going on, what's going on in our society, considering safe for this event, obviously that's something we need to really, probably honestly, almost create like a subcommittee of Peace Act to specifically work on a new plan for our safety. But I think at this point, it's just, like Rebecca said, we don't have a night box in place, we barely have safe ride. If we don't fund this, like, I understand Senator Omar's point about how public safety is really, is like kind of teetering the edge for student support, but we don't fund them. So in all honesty, they probably don't care that much. Like obviously they want to maintain like their relationship with us, but I think if, like you said, we were to fund this, like not only would we be putting students at risk, because they would still go out and do it, except there would be safety from a standpoint, or a public safety standpoint. I think at this point, we need to be aware of the fact we're limited by the time frame and the fact that like, obviously, we probably should be funding this, but the reality is we have to. So.
Senator Lewis?
Okay, point of information, what the sheriff's did last year.
On my grades, yeah. I can't speak to Halloween because I was abroad. They were here on Halloween.
Any of your friends still got jumped last year?
I believe it was last year or freshman year. Or 2 years ago.
Maybe your year ago?
I believe they've been here. I believe there have been sheriffs at every six like that so far.
Yeah, you know what happened.
Their phone was stolen and.
Were they by counties?
Yes.
So with that, can we move to, do I hear a motion to move to roll call vote?
Motion, second.
Okay. Senator Cummings. Senator Matthew.
Aye.
Senator Sherrill.
Stay.
Senator Omar. Nay. Senator Bridges. Nay. Senator Sagers.
Aye.
Senator Northman. Aye. Senator Looseman. Senator Lewis.
Nay.
Senator McNulty. Aye. Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator Gagliano.
Aye.
Senator Foster.
Nay.
Senator Campbell. Aye. Senator Quintana.
Nay.
Past President Trumbull.
Aye.
Past President Lamb. Aye. Past President Howard.
Aye.
Okay. Give me a second because I have to.
Again, I just want to reemphasize the importance of safety. So just to go over some really quick tips. Please make sure you have someone to walk you home. Please stay with buddy at all times on the greens. Please do not go out with open containers. Do not go in houses you don't know. I know I've already kind of said a bunch of this, but I really just want to like make sure that that is getting out to the student body. Please put all of that in your constituent reports. Make sure that like people are aware of like what kind of resources will be available to them through the RAs, through the RAs. Sorry, yeah, okay.
I just wanted to add something. Please respect your RAs. They are on duty and they are here to look out for you. They don't want to like get you in trouble. They don't like having to write you up. Please respect your RAs. They're having a rough go of it too. They're also students.
We're gonna go to a quick 5-minute recess. I'm so sorry. I know this is not, actually, do you wanna, I can move on to the next bill?
You can.
Okay, we're gonna do that. Okay. So, moving to the next bill. This is a very quick and easy bylaws amendment. It's essentially just changing the name of the Student Life Initiatives Board, because we are opening applications soon. And it's basically sounds exactly like Student Life Initiatives Fund, and then the committee that goes along with that. Because it got named poorly. So we're trying, so we are, essentially renaming it to Student Activism Board. That is all that's really happening. Everything else is the same. Oh, advocacy. Are you okay with activism board? Is that fine with you?
Honestly, it's for shit at this point.
Okay. Cool.
It's a name.
It's a name.
As long as it does what it needs to do, I don't really care what it's called.
If you are familiar with SLIB, we in the past have funded menstrual products, free menstrual products for the campus center, which are all available right there now. So if you ever need like a tampon, pad, A-line, or whatever, they're all available in the food pantry right now. If you haven't already included that in your constituent reports in the past, please make sure you get that out there now. But essentially, this is just renaming it to Student Activism Board so that we don't sound the same as Slip C. Alyssa, do you need to take the roll call vote while we figure out? Or do you have? Second. Do I hear a motion to roll call vote?
Second.
Senator Thomas. Aye. Senator Duncan. Senator Chong.
Aye.
Senator Omar. Aye. Senator Nella Bridges. Aye. Senator Sayers.
Aye.
Senator Martin. Aye. Senator Elizabeth. Aye. Senator Lewis. Aye. Senator Tesby. Aye. Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator Gagliano.
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 Aye.
Senator Foster.
Aye.
Senator Campbell. Senator Mouton. President Barilla.
Aye.
President Lam. Aye. President Howard.
Aye.
This passes. Okay, it is the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it, this bill passes. So we have run into a bit of a problem. So to put it really briefly, I'll let Cecilia explain the rest, but Rose Leanne, who was the vice president, resigned last week. They have just, I think, bitten off a little more than they can chew, and that's entirely understandable. There's no dramatic reason why they quit. There's no drama in this at all. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So I'm looking for an interim VP. However, if you want to explain the second part.
Okay, so at the moment, we have 18 voting members in the Senate. We had 9 guesses, which means that we don't have the majority to pass this amendment. So the vice president is the one who decides split votes, but we do not have a vice president to decide that split vote. So we have some options that the bill dies constitutionally.
We have to redo the roll call vote if you want to change any votes.
Could we do a, just raising your hand, would people be willing to do a vote? I've been looking through the Constitution this whole time, and I haven't found anything against holding like a second vote if the members know this.
how many neighborhoods?
Oh, we have to abstain.
Two abstains and yeah, 7 no's.
So,
What we're proposing is that we could do a second vote, but according to the constitution, the bill, what, we're proposing the second option.
Point of information isn't, so it's not the bill that is in voting, and the protocol is the DP would vote on it, but we don't have a DP.
Exactly. So it's not,
There's no protocol for like down chain of executive board.
not at this.
None of us are board members.
Or you can have someone fill in on VP.
Like in this moment.
We might have someone selected by, which is, I'm not sure.
Election right now.
what was
Yeah.
the procedure?
So, I would nominate someone and they would confirm, I nominate and then they're confirmed by the Senate, and a majority vote.
Since we want to resign in our.
However, this is a really big role, like, I just wanna make sure that everyone knows, like, interim VP is like, no joke. So I don't want anyone to just step up and be like, oh, I'll do it, like, on the spot, because like, this is a big commitment. And I don't want to throw, and like, this is like a very bad situation, a very like poorly constructed, things are just, you know, a little hectic right now. Can I'm just gonna talk to CC really quick and then I will get to you guys in just 1 second. Something just.
There's nothing.
Hey, so we're still in a meeting, can we go back to our assigned seats, please? I'm sorry. I think we're gonna move, are we gonna move to? Yeah, okay, we'll just go to recess.
Motion to go to
Let's
recess.
just go to recess. Okay, 5-minute recess, 5 minutes.
I thought she said, hey, we're right there. What up, y'all? I mean, I think now you're right. Well, it's not that it's bad, it's that it would have. But the difference mindset that's mindset of 15
And now because of the new information, the bill would die if you did not, okay.
mindset, that's
He's already delayed. But anyway,
I was just talking about that.
We're racist. We're racist.
Okay. Come on. Hey, we are going back to session. Please return to your seats. Thank you. All right. This is nothing that I have ever seen before in my, hey, let's find out. This is nothing that I've ever seen before in my whole SGA career. So that's fun. And we're trying to figure out what to do constitutionally, what the right thing to do is, because we as an exec do not want to influence what way this bill goes in. We want to make that very clear that we don't have voting power. We do not have, voting power for this reason. So we are not trying to influence which way this bill goes. Period. End of the story. However, nothing in the Constitution tells us what to do when there's a split vote and there's no VP. Because, yeah. So what we have decided is to, if you would like to move to a recount, like a re-vote, raise your hand, and we'll do it majority that way. And then if we move to a re-vote, we will vote on the bill again. But if we do not move to a re-vote, the bill dies.
I'd like to challenge if this is a split vote.
Wait, before you make statements, some about questions.
Yeah, we have
questions. Are we able to take a route of nominating an interim VP right now? And if so, can I nominate someone? I don't think that would be a wise decision at this time.
I am the person who would need to nominate someone, and you guys are the one who confirm them. I agree. I don't think it would be wise because we are under pressure right now, and this vote comes down to this person, comes down to the VP, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot and be like, this is all up to you now, because I feel like that's unfair. So I think the best thing to do is just to go by a normal process. We'll figure out an interim VP later, but I think that to do this right now would be not entirely fair to that person to be like, hey, this is your problem now, and I just want to. So yeah, I get that, and believe me, that would make things easier, but I think it's in the interest of just the Constitution and like making sure that we are doing things by the law, that we don't select an interim VP right now.
Senator Russo, that's Senator Foster.
Can I just?
Which is very fair. We, as a Senate, are majority people, and I think we have to step out our own perspectives and recognize that we represent the collective student body, which is increasingly diversified. And if a majority of the people of color on this Senate are saying this is a bad idea, then we need to listen.
Before Senator, you speak to Senator Foster, President Burley, you had a statement that you wanted to make.
Yeah, I'm just trying, I don't think we have a split vote, and just, let me figure this. So we have 9 yays, 7 nays, and 2 abstentions. If there's a split vote, that would mean the abstentions count as nays. Right? So, but if you're abstaining, you're gonna have no influence over the outcome of the vote at all. So that would mean we have 9 in favor, 7 nays, that's 16 votes total, and that means quorum. That means the nays to have it. Am I wrong? Sorry, the ayes have it. I misspoke. Because, right, if it's a split vote, that means we're counting the abstentions as nays.
No, they don't count, so.
So then we have 9 yays,
Okay.
and 7 nays. That means the bill passes.
Okay, thank you for your statement.
Yes, yeah, something.
That was all I was just saying, what is now, what's that?
No, the bill passes.
Let's wait until President Malcolm returns, and then we'll tell her of your statement.
Can we please help me, and everybody help me? Can you look to see if there's anything in the Constitution about abstentions? Because wasn't a conviction officer?
Yeah, if 2 nays can abstain, we don't need quorum, but with the abstentions, we still met quorum.
There's nothing in it training last year. I also want to mention this year was that the abstentions removed the number of voting members that were counting. So we had 9 nays, 7 nays, and 2 abstentions. That just means our voting body goes from 18 to like 16.
It's in the draft.
And so it's not here. You don't have that information. So I was not aware that the council nominated 7 nays.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Okay. Oh, wait, so how did, sorry, let me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then. You guys remember when Katie Gerber used to have to redo all the math at the end, whenever we had abstentions? Okay, I'm not making that up. I feel like I remember that, I remember like, whenever we had abstention, we had to recalculate what the majority was, right? Constitution and the bylaws have nothing.
So we have to be, so that's it.
Yeah, so, yeah, well, yeah, okay. Okay, so, thank you, Senator Carrillo, for raising that point. That was mistimed, that's not a mistake, I counted the abstention as, and I miscounted. We have a majority for the. So does any opinion of the chair that this bill passes? And by this bill, I'm sorry, let me pull up the right bill, I'm so sorry.
That was good.
I'm so sorry.
Right.
is not the amended one, sorry. Here she is. It is an opinion of the chair that the ayes have it, this bill passes. And so that's all for our new business tonight. Going off that point, I do really quickly want to make some announcements. So I was gonna have a motion to amend the agenda to make some announcements on my part, parliamentarian and secretary, really brief. I know it's late. A lot of things have been happening tonight. But I just do really want to briefly motion to amend the agenda for 3 more officer announcements before we break into committee session. Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda? Okay. Thank you for your patience throughout all of this. I really appreciate everyone. Do I hear a motion to approve of the agenda?
Motion.
Okay, thank you. Really quick, president report. I promise I will be brief. In light of everything that has happened tonight, if you're interested in the NRVP position, or if you have any questions about what that would be, let me know. Like, you don't even have to be necessarily interested in the sense that like you want to be the NRVP, but if you're just wondering like, hey, like, what's the deal with this? Like, how is this process, like, constitutionally, what is the process? Because we have run into already several issues with the Constitution this year where we just can't find anything in the Constitution that we would need in like these kind of like very particular and very specific situations that we have gotten into this year and this year only. So, I mean, hey, we're unique for that, so that's cool. But one thing that I have thought a lot about is trying to revamp bylaws and I guess revamp the Constitution through bylaws so that we have a little bit of a better idea, so that we don't run into the same problem again, and so that we do have better guidelines for when the VP resigns and is not removed, because there's stuff about removal but not resignation. And you know, all of the things, all the little minute details that have been left out of the Constitution that we really need and just haven't gotten around to adding yet. If anyone would like to help me in that endeavor, please let me know. Please be safe in Halloween Greens. Please make sure if you are bringing guests and make sure your constituents know if they are bringing guests to email me for their guest passes by Friday at 6 p.m. please. And I will move to parliamentarian Hawkins.
Hello, everyone. So I need members for CRC. If you are interested, please let me know. We meet on Fridays, around in the afternoon. But if Fridays does not work, we can try to figure something else out. But please let me know if you are interested or available on Fridays. I would really appreciate your help because that is the only way that we can continue to move legislation along.
Very, very briefly, in the meeting minutes section of the SGA folder, there's an announcement section. If you have announcements that you didn't get to say here, please put them in there, and when you do your constituent reports, make sure you include the announcements.
Let's get into committee sessions. Just meet, I know it's late. Please touch base briefly with your committees and make sure that you know what the plan is for this month. Start to make plans, just make sure you are engaging with your committee. If you are interested in joining CRC, please come see Alyssa. CRC is a really good committee, and it's a really good way to get really familiar with kind of our procedures and protocols and everything like that. So if you're interested in any of that, please come see Alyssa. We're gonna just go ahead and, I think we should just motion for adjournment and then bring it to committee sessions. Is that cool?
Much good, guys.
Second.